biometrics were done in March of 2020 due to COVID, and our B visa interview could not take place. Now we will need to go Dropbox my son as he will be joining university in the United States in the month of August. Please suggest what to do.
I need to ask my technical experts. What do you got?
They're requesting a B1, B2 visa.
Well, if you're applying for a B1, B2 visa, it doesn't matter. They're not going to be issued. Listen, you've raised a good question. I'm just going to go ahead and answer it. We know that a lot of Indian parents are in the habits of taking their children to the U.S. for school and perhaps staying a while to get them settled in. It's not going to happen this year. It's going to have to be the old-fashioned way where, you know, you say goodbye to them at Delhi or Mumbai or Hyderabad airport. And I know that's a problem for a lot of people, but we just don't have the latitude to issue or to grant NIEs for B visas.
Thank you, sir. Next question, again from Delhi, is I am an M1 visa holder and my course start date is August 1st, 2021. When will I be able to travel to the United States?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, because M1s are really a priority for us too. They're just a smaller number. So the answer is going to be up to 30 days. Yes, you can go up to 30 days before travel.
Okay, we're trying to get the next question up here. So good afternoon. J1 physicians are not able to secure regular appointments, hence could not apply for expedited appointments, even though the ECFMG gave support letter as a mission critical category. Can I get an appointment?
Monday.
Okay, so Monday, when we say we're opening Fs, we actually mean Fs, Ms, and Js. We're trying very hard to take care of the physicians and the people going into medical research. So go in and get yourself an appointment. And if it's not quick enough for the start date of your medical start in the US, then ask for an emergency appointment. It's a really important field to us. Luckily for us, the number is not huge, so we're able to handle it.
Okay. The next question came in from one of our consulates. Is there any preference for those whose appointments have already been canceled in the past?
No, again, this technically got beyond us. We tried to do it. So just get yourself a new appointment starting Monday, please.
Okay. Next from Chennai, should we apply for emergency appointments in order to get a visa by August 11th, whenever my program starts?
No, we are literally opening tens of thousands of appointments on Monday. You'll find you don't need it.
Okay. Another one of our questions is, when will the proclamation expire or be rescinded?
As we say in America, that's above my pay grade. Okay, that's going to be decided at the highest levels in Washington, and it's going to be based on public health considerations.
From Kolkata, the rescheduled Dropbox and normal student appointments are all applying for the visa slots all at the same time, due to which we get scheduling errors, and upon trying once, our accounts get frozen. Is there anything we can do about that?
Yeah, quit refreshing the page over and over and over. When you do that, our computer system thinks you're a bot and locks you out. Okay, just be patient. We're going to open up a lot of appointments Monday. There's not going to be any need. Listen, I've done the same thing when I'm trying to get good tickets to sporting events or concerts. Just sit there hitting refresh all the time. Don't do that to our computer program. It doesn't work, and that's how you get locked out. Just be patient, try. If it doesn't work, come back and try again and say 10 minutes.
Okay. Next from Hyderabad, do we have to apply at our regional embassy or consulate, or can we apply at any post in India in order to get an appointment?
Great question. I'm so glad you asked this question. One of the reasons that all 5 posts are opening the appointments at roughly the same time Monday morning is so to give you an opportunity to get an appointment near where you're from. So try to get an appointment at the consulate nearest to you. We don't want you to have to fly around India for an appointment. Now, if you get frustrated on it, we're going to open up more appointments later. We're holding back about 25% of what we plan to do to make sure our staffing's right, make sure there's not another wave of COVID. We'll open up some more appointments in both July and August once we're confident.
Okay. Another question from New Delhi. Do we have to request a national interest exception before applying for an F1 interview if our term or program starts after August 1st?
No. Technically speaking, F1 students who are going for the fall semester need a national interest exception, but it's a universal blanket thing. If we issue the visa, you got it.
The next question is, I have a SEVIS transfer and sorry, nope, that was an incorrect question. What about H-1B and H-4 applicants who do not have U.S. citizen children? Are they able to travel at all?
Yeah. Look, what having the U.S. citizen children does for you is it trips you into the humanitarian side of getting an NIE, which is, come on, that's one of the most important things that's going to get you national interest exception. But we're trying right now to do more and more NIEs based on the skills, the critical support to infrastructure. And we're going to do some in July too. We're also going to try and do some interview waiver cases for people who've had H visas before. And then we realize that with this big concentration of students in the summer, and why? Because they have hard start dates. They have to be there by a certain date. That we'll have some pent up H-1 visa demand, and that's what September is going to be all about.
The next question from Chennai is, will there be any compulsory quarantine for F1 students on reaching the United States who have already been vaccinated with, for example, Covishield?
Oh, you've actually asked two questions in one. Let's talk about quarantine first. Please go look at the CDC website that tells you what you need to do. I happen to know the answer to this because I'm traveling to the US in a couple of weeks. I have to go out and get a PCR test within 72 hours of my flight. And then when I arrive in the US, the CDC strongly suggests getting another PCR test within 3 to 5 days after the flight. And there's no built-in quarantine unless you test positive at the test you have after you arrive in the US. Your university or college may have a different rule. Now, nowhere in our rules for entry to the US does it take into account whether you've been vaccinated or not vaccinated. So how you're going to be treated in terms of what your vaccination means is going to be up to each individual school. There's a problem, we all know about it, we've all read about it in the media, it's something you talk about yourself, which is the Indian vaccines have not been recognized outside of India. So will your college or university accept it, or will they require you to get one of the American vaccines? That's going to be up to each college and university. We have a very decentralized system. But you're talking about going in July or August. That's a month, 2 months from now. Maybe the Indian vaccines will get WHO recognition by then. I think there's a big push on for that. The other thing that may happen is we may have more medical research that tells us what the answer is if you have an American vaccine on top of the Indian vaccine. Is that a problem or is it okay? So, I think there'll be more facts come out in this whole field, but that's the answer for now.
Okay. Our next question is from New Delhi. What about those students whose parents already have B1, B2 visas? Can they travel to the United States?
No, they would need a national interest exception, and they're not going to get it.
Okay. Next question from Mumbai. Do emergency appointments need to be within 60 days of the program start date?
Okay, look, the only reason you need an emergency appointment would be if you're going right now for the summer. So that would be within 60 days. You're not going to need an emergency appointment if you're going for the fall semester.
The next question from Kolkata. Are students with valid F1 visas allowed to travel right now?
No, because you'd be going for the summer program. Okay, and that's what can't be done without national interest exception. There's some small exceptions to that are kind of technical, but that's the short answer.
Our next question from New Delhi. If biometrics have already been done for the tourist visa a few years back, will they have to be repeated for the F1 visa?
Yes, they're too old.
From Kolkata. For an existing student who already had his interview in April but required administrative processing because they were refused under Section 221G of the INA, I already sent the documents by email. Will those be processed now?
Yeah, because you were 221G, your case is still alive, and we'll get back to you as soon as we get an answer on the administrative processing.
Another question from Hyderabad. Do I need to quarantine upon entry to the United States?
I answered this earlier, but I'm going to answer it again just to be clear. No, as far as the CDC is concerned, they would like you to take a PCR test within 3 to 5 days of entry. And if you pass that test, and hopefully you will, because you'll pass one right before you got on the plane, there's no need to quarantine. Now, your school or college may have a different rule.
Okay. Next from Chennai, I got a full scholarship for my F1 visa from the University of Alabama. Can I apply for that F1 visa under national interest exception?
Okay, well, first off, congratulations. Alabama's one of my alma maters. I would need to know a little more about what you're going for. You only need the national interest exception if you're going in the summer term. Okay, if you're going for the fall term, you're not going to need one.
Okay. We have some more questions coming in here. What is the effect of the proclamation on those of us working on either OPT or CPT as a part of our F1 visas?
Were there any changes to OPT? OTP?
Yeah, so for those students who seek to return to the United States to resume their CPT or OPT program, the entry date requirements are the same. You can resume your programs starting August 1st, 2021 and travel up to 30 days before that. So our next question coming in, my course start date is August 9th. If I obtain the F1 visa, will I be able to travel after July 17th or afterwards? I've heard that students' travel exemption is applicable only after August 1st.
Your start date is when?
Looks like
August 9th.
it was August 9th.
So they could travel 30 days before that. Yeah, you can travel 30 days before that because your start date's after August 1st. So you could leave in late July if you want to.
Okay. Our next question from Hyderabad. Thanks for this information session, sir. As priority is being given to F1 visa applicants pursuing into medical programs and such, is there any priority or criteria for master's programs, including MBAs? Are they treated any differently?
No, F1s were not prioritizing people in the medical fields. You'll have the same priority as every other F1 student.
Do we have to get vaccinated before traveling or obtaining our visa to the United States?
Okay, I answered this before, but I'm going to answer it again because I know it's people have a lot of questions about. There is no requirement by our Centers for Disease Control that you be vaccinated before you travel. Your school is probably going to require you to be vaccinated. And the big debate right now is whether the schools will accept the Indian vaccinations or not. If they don't, then they're going to want you to get the American vaccination. And again, a big matter of debate. Would that do any harm or would it be okay? So kind of keep paying attention to this issue, be in touch with your school about it. We have hundreds of universities in the United States. They're going to come up with different answers. I think what would make things easier would be if the Indian vaccines get recognized by the WHO.
Our next question from Kolkata. What could be the reason for getting my emergency visa request rejected? Other students from the same school and course of study with the same program start date get their requests accepted.
There's probably some small difference in the facts that caused the vice consul to say no instead of yes. You know, if it's an F1 visa and it's a summer program, we're really not doing very many of those. You have to step back and think about the philosophy behind all this, which is when the second wave in India, the United States put India under very similar restrictions to the European countries. And the basic starting point is nobody from India is traveling. Then we build up the exceptions. And one of the big exceptions was F1 students, but they wanted to delay the arrival of the F1 students till July, August to give a chance for the second wave to die down. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. The second wave is dying down around India, thank God. And so when the students go, it won't be a big public health problem.
Next question from Chennai. My I-20 states that the start date is August 2nd. My emergency application was denied. Why was that?
Well, you probably don't need one. You're going to get an appointment Monday for some time in July, and assuming your visa is issued, you'll be able to travel that day.
Our next question is, I was issued an F1 visa in April for continuing my studies. It was issued before the current restrictions. I will be traveling back for the fall semester. Do I need a national interest exception?
No, you do not. If you were traveling back for the summer semester, we'd have to talk, but for the fall semester, you're fine.
The next question from Chennai. How about L1 blanket visas? When do you expect to open slots for those applicants?
To be honest, I would have to check Chennai about that. It's the only one of our posts that does L1 blanket visas. They're not at the top of our priority list right now, but we'll get back to them.
Our next question is, do you plan on prioritizing applicants whose appointments were canceled in April or May, or can you prioritize applicants based on their program start date?
No. It's a technical bear. You would think it'd be easier than it is. We can't. So you guys are going to have to get on there Monday and, hey, you know, do everybody a favor. If your start date's kind of later, pick a later date.
Our next question from Delhi: what documents should students carry for their F1 visa interview?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this. We're going to talk a little bit about the interview itself, which you'll be asked, and the kinds of things you should say in response. But you have to have your passport, you have to have a photograph, because we use that in the process, and your I-20 form from your school. It's also possible that you'll be asked how your family's going to finance it, so bring in some documents about how you're going to do that.
Our next question from Chennai: if a student's sibling is staying in the United States, will it have any effect on their F1 visa interview?
No. We understand that in Indian families, not only do you often have a sibling there, but you may be going to the same school for that very reason, because you'll have a support network. So it doesn't bother us at all.
Next question from Hyderabad: I got my visa date within 10 days of my program start date. Should I reschedule or apply for an emergency appointment?
No, you should keep the appointment you have.
Our next question from Kolkata: sir, my nearest region is New Delhi. Do I have to book the appointment in New Delhi only, or can I book in Mumbai as well, as I need an appointment in June, so I might end up booking anywhere I can get it?
Well, if you're in Calcutta, I would actually apply in Calcutta. They're going to have a pretty good amount of appointments coming open on Monday. Now, generally speaking, you should apply near where you live.
Okay. From Chennai: when can parents travel to the States to visit their children if they cannot accompany them now?
When the presidential directive is lifted. If the family already has B1, B2 visas, the moment they hear the presidential directives, limitations on B visas have been lifted, they can get on a plane right after that. If they need a B1, B2 visa, then we're going to have to ramp up to do B1, B2 visa appointments. And frankly, there may be a delay. But we're guessing that most folks whose kids are going over to the school for F1 visas already have B visas.
Our next question from New Delhi: can an academic from Delhi University be permitted to travel on a B1, B2 visa in August if they have received an invitation for a seminar being held at a U.S. university?
No. In happier times, that's the kind of thing that'd be right on the cusp of what you can do on a B visa and what you need a J visa for. So you may want to have the school invite you under a J visa.
Okay. Our next question from Chennai: sir, the site is getting crashed whenever you release slots due to high traffic. Is there anything you can do about that?
Yeah, that might happen Monday. Okay, bear with us. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. Our next question coming in: my daughter is currently a junior at Tufts University. Can she travel back to India and then back to the United States before the fall semester?
Oh, congratulations to her. Yes, she can, but geez, you know, I mean, she's kind of betting on the farm on getting an appointment here in July and August when she's competing with all these kids who are signing up. So yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to. If I were she, I might apply and see if she could get the appointment before she comes over here.
Let's see, our next question from New Delhi: what are the documents required to apply for a national interest exception for a J1 exchange visitor?
Okay, this is actually pretty easy. You send us an email. Do we have that address?
Yes, that address is New Delhi, NIE, no spaces, @state.gov.
Okay.
So
if
your visa was issued in
New Delhi, and there's similar sites at all 5 posts, but you basically send us an email and tell us your story. In the case of a J visa or an H visa, if a J, and this may apply to a few H's, it has, you know, if you're in the medical field, just tell us that, medical research or doctor. Otherwise, you have to show that you're going to support critical infrastructure.
And generally speaking, current visa holders should be applying at the post in India where their visa was originally.
Oh yeah,
issued.
that's right. That's very important. Yeah, send it to the post where your visa was issued. Otherwise, it's going to get bounced around and it's going to get delayed, or you might even get a no.
So please visit our website before you send in your request, just to see the various web addresses for each of the posts in India. So our next question, due to social distancing matters, will the number of applicants visiting the embassy be limited?
Oh, good question. I'm sure a lot of people ask this. Look, we're going back to roughly what we did in December and January to get thousands of students ready for the spring semester. So we've got practice at our visa applicant centers and at the consulates in spacing people out. For instance, on a busy day for one of our posts in July and August will be about 300 people a day, which sounds like a lot, but they'll be spaced out at least 6 feet apart. Everybody will be wearing masks. Hand sanitizer will be widely available, both at the visa applicant center and at the consulate.
Our next question is from Delhi. Are there any provisions for students who are currently in the United States and need to renew their F1 visa?
Well, look, yeah, I mean, you can get an appointment, but you should ask the question of why you need to renew. If you're in status, you don't really need a new visa unless you're going to leave the US and come back. All right. I really question people who are making optional travel around the world right now. This is really not the best time to do that.
Our next question comes from Kolkata. When will the consulate in Kolkata have vac slots available for appointments?
Starting Monday.
Our next question comes in from Chennai. Why can't my interview be waived or conducted virtually?
Well, we have a lot of legal requirements on this. Congress wants us to interview all first-time applicants for a particular type of visa in person. And actually, as we'll discuss kind of at the end of the interview, there are some really interesting questions that we asked. So the interview is important. And doing it virtually just doesn't work for us either from a legal point of view or from a point of view of getting to know the person and their story and evaluating it.
Next question is also from Kolkata. The slots at the Kolkata consulate opened past midnight once. On Monday, at what time do we plan to open these student visa slots?
Morning time. I can't be much more specific than that, but morning time.
Next question from Hyderabad. If the parent of a student has an existing valid tourist visa, will they be allowed to travel in mid-August with their children?
No. Assuming the presidential proclamation is still in effect, they would need a national interest exception. They're not going to get one.
Our next question is, I am 17 years old and India is not vaccinating children my age. So will it be okay if I travel without the vaccine and then get vaccinated once I arrive onto my campus in the United States?
Check with your school, but I think that's going to be okay with almost every school. They may ask you to get there a little early so that you can go through the course of the vaccine before school starts, but check with your school. They'll have an answer to that.
Okay. Our next question coming in from Chennai. As a deferred student, I paid my SEVIS fee last year in June. However, I have not been able to get an appointment and hence a visa within the last year. Will my SEVIS fee expire in this case?
Oh, good question. Technical experts. SEVIS fees? Do we know?
They will not, the validity has not been extended.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to go poof in June, so you're going to have to pay it again. Sorry.
Okay. Our next question from Chennai. Are you approving any emergency appointments for L1 visa applicants?
If it's a really compelling story, let me tell you what we hear from some people is that they left kids behind in the U.S. or they've got the kids here with them and the other spouses in the U.S., things like that. Support for critical infrastructure. We're concentrating more on the ages, but there will be some Ls that qualify.
Okay. Our next question comes from Hyderabad. What financial documents are required for the first year or the full duration of the intended course of study, such as a 2-year MBA course?
You know, it's a little different for every person. We understand in an Indian context that it may not be your parents that are paying, it may be an uncle or an auntie. Bring in, Will, what are some of the documents we typically look at in an interview?
Sometimes we look at bank statements, credit card statements, occasionally, depending on the context. Sometimes we also look at property records, but generally speaking, we base the majority of the adjudicatory decision on either required documents, such as the I-20 in the passport, or just on the interview. That's the reason why we bring people in the first place.
Right. I'd like you to have the financial documents just in case you get asked, but a lot of you are not going to be asked.
Next question from Hyderabad. I am a potential F1 student. Can we travel to states other than the state in which our university is? Will there be any problem at the port of entry with this?
No. No, in fact, we expect you to travel around while you're there. You know, the U.S. is a big country, as is India. You're going to find as you settle in and make friends that you're going to go visit their houses, or you're going to go to that really cool place 2 states away. Do that. If you get there early for the start of your semester and you've kind of complied with what the school wants you to do in terms of vaccination or isolation, if they have any requirements, spend a little of that time traveling around before you start classes.
Our next question comes from Delhi. Are F2 dependent visa holders also exempted when traveling with the F1 student if they're traveling 30 days within the start date for their fall classes?
Yes, and listen, you know, when I say we're emphasizing F1 students, we're emphasizing the F2s that go with them too. The percentages aren't that high. F1s are young enough, generally speaking, that they tend not to have many F2 dependents. There are some, and yes.
Our next question comes from Delhi. Do interview waivers work for people who initially went to the United States on a J1 visa last year and then now want to go on an F1 visa this year?
Lamentably, no. It does? No. Lamentably, no. It has to be the same kind of visa. Okay. That's a rule I would change if I were king, but that's the rule.
Our next question from Hyderabad. Can we assume H-1B visas will be processed from Monday irrespective of the travel ban?
I'm not really sure what the question is. We will be doing H1s throughout the summer. They may get short shrift in August while we're trying to get the last student visas on the plane. The travel ban means you need to show us you're going in support of critical infrastructure.
Okay. Our next question comes from Kolkata. My postdoctorate program start date is September 1st of 2021. I will be applying for a J1 visa and am planning to travel in mid-August. Do I need a national interest exception?
You will, and you know, if you're in medical field or medical research or certain other fields, you'll very likely get one.
Next from Kolkata, is the GRE mandatory even if the university has waived the requirement for GRE scores?
No, that's really up to each university.
Let's see. Our next question, what about students from Nepal? Can they apply from India as per the embassy in Kathmandu is closed?
We are seeing small numbers of Nepalese students apply, and we're looking at that on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Our next question, can I be denied a visa if I have only applied to a single university?
No. We're going to get to this more at the very end of the Facebook Live, but we want to see that you and the program and the school all make sense. And if you only found one place that really made sense to you, that's fine.
Let's see, our next question coming in from Mumbai. Will parents get the visa to accompany their children to the university?
They will not this year.
Let's see. Our next question is from New Delhi. Will my upcoming student visa appointment be canceled?
Upcoming student visa appointment.
It will be upheld.
Yeah, we're back onto the regular order now. People who had appointments in April and May did get canceled, but if you're holding one in June, you'll be fine.
Okay. The next question coming from Mumbai. When will immigrant visa processing resume?
It's already resumed in very small numbers, but on July 1st, we hope to take it up to about 50% of what it normally was a couple years ago. We wish it was 100%. We don't have the staffing. One thing that's underlying everything we're talking about here today is we have about half of the American officers that we're supposed to, and it's all either directly or indirectly related to COVID.
Okay. Next question is coming in now. Does the MRV receipt, is that valid for 1 year? And are we not able to schedule appointments with that? Will the MRV receipt validity be extended?
It's been extended at least once. It's kind of a technical question. I'm not sure how old they could be now and still be valid. I do not know if it'll be extended again.
Let's see, our next question coming in. Why can't I enter the United States using my I-20 form or my I-797 approval notice from USCIS?
Well, you really want to have an interview with us rather than the immigration officer at JFK Airport, okay? They're a little tougher than we are, and also it's really jammed up when you enter the airport. You'd much rather have that experience here at one of our 5 consulates. And if you didn't, that's what would happen to you. You'd have that same interview there.
Our next question is from Chennai. What are the key points that the consulate or embassy would look for in the explanation while applying for an expedited appointment?
Oh, we're going to really do this at the end of the Facebook Live. But again, we want to see that this program and this school makes sense for you.
Next question. My university has only issued an electronic I-20. Can I possibly print that to bring to my visa interview, or would I need a physical copy signed by the school in the United States?
No, print that. We're used to working with electronic I-20s.
Next question coming in from Hyderabad. I'm a returning F1 student and my fall start date is August 23rd. Can I travel back on the 2nd of July?
No, you have to wait till July 23rd, 24th. I'm not going to do the math in public.
And actually, the earliest travel dates for students with I-20 starting new program is actually printed on the right side of the I-20 form as the earliest travel date.
There you go.
All right. Still have more questions coming in. If we apply for an emergency appointment and get rejected, does the original interview date still stay valid, or does that get canceled as well?
No, it stays valid.
Let's see, our next question. I'm starting classes in mid-August for the fall semester. Will I be able to get a visa to make it to class on time at the start of the semester?
We hope so. Listen, I've been doing this for over 30 years, and the worst that's ever happened is we've had a few kids who have gotten their visas very late in the game and wind up getting to class 2 or 3 days after school starts, and I have to get special permission and something in writing from the school. But generally speaking, we get 95% of the students we issue on a plane in time.
Our next question. Will you be opening tens of thousands of slots repeatedly, or is it just a one-time deal? Because the server seems to be weak and it really isn't able to handle a lot of requests at once.
We're going to open these tens of thousands on Monday. And then before July 1st comes around, before August 1st comes around, we're going to open about a third as many again. Okay, we're holding some back in reserve just in case the unexpected happens. But with those 2 or maybe 3, we may do July and then wait and do August. With those 3 tranches of slots we're opening, that'll be equivalent to what we did in 2019.
Our next question from Kolkata. Do fully funded students have to show personal finances?
If it shows up on your I-20 as you're fully funded, no.
Our next question is, I am a Bangladeshi national and currently in Chennai since my husband is Indian. Can I apply for an F1 visa in Chennai as travel is closed to Bangladesh right now?
Yeah, you can. Listen, we generally want people to apply where they're normally resident, and if your husband's living in Chennai and you're spending a lot of time down there, you're resident there, so sure.
Okay. Our next question from Mumbai is a COVID test required at the time of the visa interview?
No, and this will be a surprise to everybody. We really want the same test that a lot of airlines require you to test, which is within 3 days before travel. Hey, by the way, don't overlook that detail. It's not exactly easy to get that test and get your results back within 3 days before travel. So make sure you've got that set up for you before you get very close to your travel date.
Our next question also comes from Mumbai. Will the embassy and consulates be processing a similar number of F1 visas as pre-COVID operations?
Yes. Our target this year is what we did in the summer of 2019. Now, Will demand this year be higher because some kids didn't get to go last year? Will be lower because, let's face it, the whole international situation is kind of messed up. We don't know. So we just took what we did in the last normal year as our guidepost.
Okay. Our next question comes from New Delhi. I don't have a surname in my passport. Does it affect my visa interview selection?
No, we're used to that. There are plenty of people in this country who have just one name.
Our next question also comes from New Delhi. I'm attending university in Atlanta. However, I would like to arrive in Chicago before that within the 30 days prior to my program start date. Is this possible?
Yeah, that's not a problem. Be prepared to give an explanation to the immigration officer at the airport. If the answer is that you're going to go to Georgia Tech or Emory, but your favorite cousin or your auntie or even your boyfriend lives in Chicago, they'll understand that.
The next question comes from Chennai. Is there any guidance on consular processing resuming for I-130s? Has Mumbai resumed?
Mumbai has resumed in small numbers, and come July 1st, they're going to start up towards the goal of doing about 50% of what we did in pre-COVID years. That's about how much staff we have, so that's the most that we can do. I prefer to be 100%, but 50% is good.
Okay, our next question comes from Kolkata. What is the current wait time for student visa appointments?
That's really hard to answer. As of Monday, June the 14th, it's going to be about 10 weeks tops because we hope to get everybody in the 2.5 months after that, 10 or 11 weeks.
Okay. Next question comes from Chennai. Hello, is C1D visa Dropbox dates open or interview waiver Dropbox dates?
Okay, again, I keep forgetting to mention some of the smaller categories of visas. C1D is a priority for us. We understand how important that is to world commerce, and hey, we fly around all the time, so we want our air crews to have visas. Are we doing them on Dropbox, guys? Soon?
Next week.
Okay, we'll start next week.
Our next question reads, hello, sir. In a day, how many attempts for booking an appointment may be made? In case our account is locked, what do we do about that?
This is a really technical question, okay? The short answer is don't do that. It's not really how many per day, it's the people who do it over and over and over and over and over and don't do that.
And just to follow up on that, so when we talk about don't repeatedly refresh, we're talking dozens of times. And this is a worldwide policy, not just for India. If you do get locked out, it's for at least 48 hours, give or take. It's a somewhat random time, which you will be permanently locked out of the system during that time period. We're not able to unlock that account for you. So
yeah, which would be a bummer next week, so don't do that.
Yes. Our next question regarding Education USA. With school final exams postponed, results are likely to also be delayed. Will that affect my visa interview?
No. We like for people to have good grades and have a good record, but we actually don't pay a lot of attention to that, especially in a year where it's difficult for people to have that particular credential. We'll go back and look at what you did earlier.
Okay. Another question coming in. If a student is in the United States currently and their visa is about to expire, should they travel back to India, or is there another way that they can renew their F1 student visa while remaining in the United States?
Okay, it's not about your visa, it's about your status with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. As long as you're in status, there's no need for you to travel. Don't get out of status, though. That's a bad thing. If you find yourself getting ready to get out of status, if the last permission USCIS gave you has expired, is getting ready to expire, then you're on a plane and get your visa.
The next question coming in. Previously, I had 2 appointments that got canceled due to COVID lockdowns. I have received admission to Clemson University, South Carolina, and my program start date is August 19th, 2021. I have my travel booked for July 21st, 2021, and to renew my visa before that, I have been trying to reschedule the biometric and visa interview for the last few months, but I have had no success. Could you please help me with this matter or guide me on who I should reach out to in order to get this resolved?
Okay, you're going to find that much easier to do come Monday. Remind me, you said you're traveling July 19th, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, that's a pretty narrow window you're going to have to hit between July 1st and July 19th. So, be prepared to reschedule your flight if you get a later appointment.
Next question coming in. Our daughter has got into Cornell and classes start on the 19th of August. If appointments for visas open on Monday and I apply in Kolkata, by when should I expect to actually receive my visa?
Well, assuming you're talking about your daughter's F1 visa, we'll do everything we can do to get on the plane for her start date. But if you're applying for a tourist visa to accompany her, there just won't be any this year, sorry.
Next question coming in from Chennai. When might the Dropbox appointments open for H1 visa applicants?
I think next week we're going to start opening some drop boxes. Numbers are going to vary around the country and they're going to vary a little week to week, but we'll get started.
Another question from Chennai. If the F1 visa was already approved in March and a student wants to change their college with a new I-20, do they qualify for interview waiver or will they need to reapply for a fresh F1 visa?
No, I don't think you do. I think.
No,
Fly with the I-20?
That's correct. If your F1 visa is currently valid and you're just changing your program, so you have a valid F1 visa and a valid I-20, you'll just need to explain that at the port of entry once you arrive to the United States.
That's for the fall semester. Don't try to travel for the summer without coming and getting an NIE. Also, be prepared to have a good explanation for the immigration person at the airport as to why you changed schools.
The next question from Hyderabad. Will there be an interview waiver for the students currently doing master's programs and due to family emergency, they traveled back to India and who now need to return to the United States by converting their H4 visa to an F1 visa?
No, because that's really not an interview waiver case because you're going from an H to an H4 to F1. So you're going to have to get an F1 appointment.
Our next question coming in. I submitted an expedited appointment request several weeks ago, but have not received a response yet. When will I hear something?
We try to get back within 2 weeks. I can't tell from your question whether you're applying for an F1. If it's an F1, you're probably not going to need the expedited appointment, apply for a regular appointment on Monday. If it was some other category of visa, we owe you an answer and we'll get back to you soon.
Okay. Next question coming in. Does a vaccinated applicant have a better chance of obtaining a visa appointment?
No. We're not even going to ask you.
Next question from Kolkata. My passport expires in 2023. Will that affect my F1 visa application process?
No, absolutely not. Oh, and P.S., when you get to the U.S., if you're still studying in 2023, go several months ahead of time to your local Indian consulate and just get your new passport. They're very efficient.
Next question from Mumbai. Did I understand correctly that there will be visa appointments opened on Monday, then only on July 1st, and then August 1st?
We're going to open up tens of thousands on Monday, but we're reserving away 25%. It will open some probably shortly before July 1st and shortly before August 1st, because we'd rather make sure we'll be able to do them than go ahead and issue them now and have to cancel any.
Okay. Next question coming in from Kolkata. I received a 221G refusal on the 21st of April, 2021 while applying to extend my J1 visa. What about case processing for applications like these?
I'm going to make an educated guess. You were told administrative processing, which is really hard to predict how long it's going to take. Okay. As soon as we have an answer on that, we'll get back to you. If it was some other reason you were 221G, get in touch with us.
Next question from New Delhi. Do we need any letter from our university at the time of our F1 interview specifying that the semester will be in person?
No.
Next question. I am starting classes in mid-August for the fall semester. Will I be able to get a visa to make it to class on time at the start of that semester, or what happens if I'm late?
You'll find out Monday. We're going to have a lot of appointments in July in the first half of August, so I think there's a pretty good chance you'll get an appointment in time. Otherwise, I have seen students who missed the start date through no fault of their own because they couldn't get a visa appointment or something. You can usually get the school to agree to let you show up a few days late. They'll send a letter that you'll show us at the visa interview, and then you'll show again at the port of entry.
The next question from Mumbai. I am a J1 research scholar in internal medicine. My program starts from the 2nd of August. Will I need a national interest exception?
Yes, you will, and you'll get it probably. So just ask.
The next question from New Delhi. Can I transfer my VAC appointment that is currently scheduled in Chennai to where my consular appointment is scheduled in order to avoid travel?
Yes, and we want you to avoid travel. Look, and it's enough that you're going to have to take a 14-hour flight to the East Coast of the U.S. to go to college. We don't really want people bouncing around India for their interviews if we can avoid it. That's one reason we're open so many appointments all at once on Monday, is so that you can find one, hopefully, in the consulate nearest you, instead of one on the other side of the country.
The next question comes from Mumbai. Do we need to take a direct flight to the United States or a flight with a stop in the Middle East or Europe to be able to enter?
Not Europe. The problem is Europe's under the exact same rule India is, 14 days. So if you touch down in Europe, you could wind up having trouble doing onward travel. There's some Middle Eastern countries that do not have this problem. Do a little research on it.
Next question from New Delhi. I do not have any extended family in the United States. Therefore, I will be unable to provide local contact points apart from the university contact on my DS-160.
That's fine.
The next question coming in. Do I need to pay my SEVIS fee before I appear for the visa interview?
Answer?
Yes. And in fact, if you appear at your interview without the visa, the SEVIS fee being reflected in the system, you will be refused under 221G until that is rectified.
Yeah, but you don't want it. It means you wind up having to come to the consulate twice. We're going to take, I could really do this all day. We're going to take one more question, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the interview. What's our last question?
Final question from New Delhi. At what time on Monday will the slots go live?
Morning of the business day, so don't get up at 12:01 a.m. Okay, so interview. This is something people get really nervous about. Sometimes we have people walk up and we ask them, why are you going to do this particular visa? And they get tongue-tied and they can't answer us. Or sometimes they just read us stuff that was in the school's brochure. Or sometimes they give us a canned speech that the recruiter told them to use. This will work for sure. Now, look, sometime in the last few months, you went to your father and your mother and you said, I've chosen. I've been through all the materials. I've decided where I want to go to school and what I want to major in. And your mom and your dad said, okay, well, if we're going to spend a lot of money on this, tell us why. Why this school? Why this program? Why this major? Why this city? And you told them. And that's what we want to hear. Look, I've spent enough time around Indian families to know it may have been the other way around. Your dad may have told you where you're going to go to school, but he told you all that same stuff as to why it made sense. Tell us that. There's a lot of answers that are good. Some people go because, say it's electrical engineering, they just have a passion for it and they've chosen a good school for it and they really want to go for almost purely academic reasons. Other people, it's because they had a friend or a cousin who went to the same school or maybe studied in the same program a couple years ago and came back with good reports. That's good knowledge. When you've had somebody who's close to you has gone to this place and done well, that's a good thing to take into account. With Indian families, sometimes it may be because you have an auntie or an uncle in that town who can kind of look over you and drive you around when you need to go places and have you over Sunday dinner. That's a perfectly valid reason. We have a lot of universities in the US, and a lot of them have the same programs. So you're choosing which school you want to go to electrical engineering in, or which city you want to study electrical engineering in. It's a matter of choice. But we expect you to be able to look us in the eye and tell us within a minute or a minute and a half why this school, this program makes sense for you. That's the key to having a successful interview. I want to thank everybody for spending the time. You had some great questions. I wish we'd gotten to 100% of them. We're really excited. This is something we really like to do every year. Last year was terrible. But at Christmas time, we got thousands of kids on the plane for the spring semester. And this year, we're going to try really hard to get all of you who get visas on the plane in time for the fall semester. Thank you and have a great day.